Rangeley on Monday.
Whatever day that
in
was.
that kind of week. And so this is an opportunity to hear from these 4 candidates who are running for precinct 3. District 3. It says precinct on the map too. Anyway, so they're running, and we've got some prepared questions that they've been given in advance to answer, and they'll answer those, and then depending on how long that takes, when we were in Rangeley, we had an opportunity to let people answer or ask any questions that they had that were just like, I have to ask this. So if something comes up for you and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to ask this question, this hasn't been addressed, hold on to it until the end, and we'll go from there. So, everybody ready? We're gonna start, we're gonna let everybody do their own bio and introduction, just because I have them, but it would be really awkward for them and for me to stand here and read them. So we're gonna let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. So, Mona, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All right. First, thank you all for coming out on this cold night. Appreciate it. My name is Mona Avey. I'm a hometown girl, the oldest of 5 daughters born to Arlene and Calvin Fritzland. I grew up on ranches. I attended 12 years of school with the Meeker school system, graduating in 1968. I have 3 children, Mark, Jean, and Christy Scritchfield, all of whom helped us as a family build Fritzland's Resort, located up the White River. My husband, Al Avey, and I have been married for 35 years. We enjoy a blended family of 5 kids and 7 grandkids. I have 35 years of work experience, 25 in the management field. In 2007, I went to work at the Rio Blanco County Assessor's Office as an ad valorem tax appraiser for real and personal property. Assisted with the valuation of oil and gas properties such as drilling rigs, pipelines, and gas plants. In 2017, I retired from the assessor's office and started a little at-home bakery business. Because I have a strong interest in county government, I started attending the commissioners' meetings and have been attending those on a real regular basis, learning firsthand how our commissioners make day-to-day decisions, or week-to-week, however. I have a strong desire to become part of the working team for the citizens of Rio Blanco County. Thank you.
My name is Scott Nielsen. I was born in Meeker, went to 1st through 3rd grade school right here across the street. Went 4th through 9th grade in Las Vegas, Nevada. Returned back to here for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade and graduated here in Meeker. Right after high school, I joined the Army. I spent 3 years in the Army. I ended up stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, got an honorable discharge. After I got out of the Army, I went to trade school for 1 year. Moved to Grand Junction, worked in the auto repair industry for 1 year. And then the oil field was really booming and paying a lot of money, so I went to work in the oil field until it collapsed in 1983. And then I returned to Oklahoma and worked as an auto mechanic there for 3 more years before going to work at a mine in Southern California. In 1993, we moved from the mine in California back to Meeker. I worked for Rio Blanco County for about 24 years. 12 of those years as district supervisor here in Meeker. Since then, I've gone to work for CDOT. The last 2 years I've been working for CDOT, right here in Meeker. Experience, I guess, don't know what I got for experience as a supervisor. I got years of working on budget with Rio Blanco County. I'm a life member of the NRA. I'm a certified firearms instructor and refuse to be a victim seminar instructor. I'm a treasurer of Meeker Sportsman's Club and a member of the Meeker Town Council. And thanks for showing up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ty Gates. I was born and raised in Meeker. I went to school here as well. I graduated in 1998, and after that I could not wait to leave and get out in the big world. I don't know why, but I was excited to leave and left. I went to college at John Brown University in Salem Springs, Arkansas. And then I moved back to Denver, and I was a superintendent for D.R. Horton, building houses at that time, and that's where I met my wife Rachel, and we have two sons, Spencer and Nick, and they go to school here as well. I decided to change my career path after D.R. Horton was sold or merged with Melody Homes, and got into the financial industry. And I worked on an equity trading desk for 7 years. 5 of those 7 years I was the head equity trader, and I had the opportunity to travel around the United States, meeting a bunch of different CEOs, CFOs, with publicly traded companies that we traded for, or prospect companies that we would trade for. And then in 2012, I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack, thought the job was going to kill me, so I called my wife and said, I can't do this anymore, and we moved back to Meeker. And I worked in the jail for 2 years when I moved back, and then in 2015, January of 2015, I became the emergency manager. And so I'm very familiar with the county budgets. As a department head for the county, I have my own budget that I operate under. Every year since then, I've always been under budget. I am very conservative with the taxpayer funds, and that's pretty much my life in a nutshell.
Good evening, and again, thanks everybody for coming out. I'm Kai Turner. I was born in Rangeley in 1962, attended grade school and high school in Meeker, and graduated in 1980. I then went to work for a large construction company based out of Steamboat Springs that worked all over the western U.S. and they sent me to school at the same time and have a construction management associate degree. I managed very large industrial construction projects at the latter part of that, like 89, and then decided to move back to Meeker in 1990. Worked at Colwell Coal for 3 years, and bought an outfitting business in 1994. And operated that business till 2009. I sold a large portion of the business, and then the rest of it in 2012, and packed hunters and guided fly fishermen, and did summer pack trips and that type of thing. And I was a county commissioner once before from 2009 to 2012, and presently I still guide fly fishermen and guide hunters and spend all my time outside, and still basically self-employed.
Do you guys want to do like we did before and go back and forth, or do you want to?
Sure, that worked all right.
Does that work all right? Okay, so this one's gonna be for you. So the next question speaks to motive, and that is probably the #1 question everybody told me that we needed to ask is, well, why are they running? What's their motive? What's their agenda? So if you go for it.
Starting with me.
Yep.
I guess that I'm not a very good spectator. I'm a better participant, and I did say that I would never, ever try this again, and just with the projected 5.8 million people in Colorado in 2020, and the subtle erosion of our independence and private property rights, I've become frustrated and feel like I want to be involved again. It's really disheartening just to see what's going on the Front Range and how that's affecting rural communities in Colorado, especially ours. And I feel like I can help and navigate the legislature pretty well and some other things, and want to get back into it and try to do it again and make a difference.
The number one reason I would like to be a commissioner is I'm very passionate about the county. I'm passionate about the future of the county. I've been involved in many boards, currently the Rio Blanco Fire Protection Board. I just recently, as of December, got off the Fair Board, the Board of Health. I'm very involved in the All Hazards region. I am currently the vice chair there. So I've had a lot of leadership roles on boards, but I really care about the heritage, culture, and values of our county and protecting those for the future generations to come.
Okay, Scott?
As we all want Rio Blanco County to furnish, I believe I can participate in that and keep going in the direction Rio Blanco County's already headed with the Wolf Creek Reservoir project, the hopeful sale of natural gas outside of Rio Blanco County, outside of Colorado, if we can make it work. And the broadband, and keep moving it forward and keep pushing on that, try to get people to come to me. I like the current branding, where the branding's headed with our county. We herd livestock down the highway. We have mountain bike trails and hiking trails. We have hunting and fishing, but we don't have pot shops. And if you like that, then Rio Blanco County is the place for you. And I think we ought to be able to move forward without forgetting our past in agriculture and oil field.
Okay, as I said before, I've been attending county commissioner meetings since 2017, and that led to my interest in county government, and I decided to run for county commissioner. I'm concerned about the effects that some of the state mandated legislation is having on our communities in rural Colorado. I don't believe that off-the-wall legislation does anything for us. It just hurts us, and I think that we need to stand up and fight against some of that off-the-wall stuff. Change only happens through involvement, and so I decided to get more involved than just sitting in the commissioners' meetings. Thank you.
Okay, your next question. What qualifications and or experience would you bring to this office that makes you different from the other candidates? So what sets you apart?
Me? I have 35 years of work experience, as I said in my bio, 25 years in management, responsible for budgets and staffing and policies and procedures, safety inspections, transportation program, disaster preparation plans. I've had 10 years as a Rio Blanco County tax appraiser, and I understand rural and personal property taxes. Attending county commissioner meetings gave me an insight, a view to how county budgets are done, and my management skills, my tax appraiser experience, my involvement with the county commissioner meetings, and my one-on-one communication skills make me a solid candidate. Thank you.
Scott?
Basically, I've worked with the largest department in Rio Blanco County for 25 years, almost 25 years. 12 of those years as a supervisor, helped with long-range planning and budget annually. I worked with that every year. And the last 2 years I've been with the town of Meeker. Very, very much involved with the budgeting process and understand how it's all transpired.
I currently have, as the emergency manager, relationships in place with most of the agencies and organizations in the county. I've worked directly with them in one form or fashion, as well as the state agencies, Department of Homeland Security at the state level, CDPHE at the state level, Colorado Parks and Wildlife at the state level, and BLM and the Forest Service at the federal level. So I do have good, strong relationships that I've built over the years with them, and I've also built up the trust in those relationships. I feel that that's really helped me and will help me as a commissioner, and the fact that, like building the relationships prior to the wildland fires or incidents, and saving the county thousands and thousands of dollars on incidents. I think I've demonstrated as the emergency manager that I'm passionate about the county, that I'm conservative with taxpayer funds. And I've also, as I mentioned before, been very involved in other leadership roles in other boards.
My qualifications, I think, that set me apart are, I've had 4 years of experience as a county commissioner. During that time, we saved $12.5 million for a justice center, and felt like that we were very fiscally conservative and good with the taxpayers' money. I owned a business and have been self-employed from '94 until now, other than the 4 years that I did work as the commissioner. But other than that, I've never worked for the government, and I think that's kind of a unique thing in this group. I have some experience with water rights, that type of thing, and also some experience with land use. And I think some of the issues that are coming up in our county are specifically land use issues, and not being able to use our land, especially the public land, but private land as well, with the wolf deal and some of those things. And so I think, having some experience in those areas are going to help.
Okay. Next question, and then for you guys, I'm gonna revise this a little bit from what we did on Monday. Anytime you have a board that has only 3 members, where 2 is a quorum, you run a risk of violating Colorado's Open Meetings Act. And you also run a risk, just like pretty much all of us know, if you've got 3 friends, 2 friends are probably gonna be in agreement, and 1 friend is kind of gonna be on the outs. So as a board that needs to work together, how can you practically address that and make sure that all 3 commissioners are functioning together as one body?
You did throw her.
I did.
Purple.
Am I gonna start?
We go down there.
Kai starts, I think.
That's an interesting dynamic. And when I was commissioner before, and the ones previous, never closed the meeting, and that's how you kind of got around to being able to have a quorum in a conversation, share an office, ride together to Rangeley or different places. I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to being honest and not making decisions when you're not in a public session. And the one thing that I think helps is if you have those discussions when you're 2 or 3 of you, and solve some problems, but you gotta make darn sure that you have a summary discussion, a rediscussion, brief summary discussion of what you discussed for the public. And that way you can convey that problem solving that you went through prior to get to to the decision you're going to make.
So, as a member of the fire board, the Sunshine Law applies to us as well. So I'm very familiar with the law. You have to understand and respect the law, and more importantly, understand how it protects you guys, the constituents, under that law. And I feel the fire board does a very, very good job working towards that goal and abiding by that law. And I'm a firm believer, if you have nothing to hide, you hide nothing at all. So it's, I think there's a bunch of different ways to look at this and problem solve to where you're not in violation of the Sunshine Law.
Okay. Scott?
I'm gonna differ from the rest, I believe, a little bit on that. My interpretation of the Sunshine Law is any discussion between 2 board members is a meeting. And the Sunshine Law, if you're gonna have a discussion about county policies, you need to have it in an open meeting. And that makes it hard when they're riding to Rangeley in the same vehicle or going to meetings information gathering across the state. It makes it hard, but anytime they're discussing county policies, it's a meeting. And so they should refrain from that type of discussion as much as possible and save that for the board meetings, the announced board meeting. And that way the public gets to understand and gets to watch and listen to the debate that goes on in the decision-making process.
Okay, thank you. Mona?
Okay, well, I'm a firm believer that elected officials need to know and understand and adhere to the Colorado Open Meetings Act, the Sunshine Law. A meeting is is any kind of gathering where public business is discussed, whether it's in person, by telephone, electronically, or by any other means, between two or more officials of a public entity. I am agreeing with Scott here. The public business cannot be conducted in secret. The public deserves to know the public's business. Now, I realize that makes it kind of hard when you're trying to make decisions and you don't want a board meeting to run for hours and hours and hours. I understand all of that. But I also believe that that's a responsibility of elected officials, and it should be followed. Now, my practical solution or suggestion for preventing violations is just don't get together and talk. And that's basically my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Simona, this next one will be for you. What types of policy changes should the county make, or would you encourage to build up business, existing business, encourage new business? And then the second part of this is what kinds of new businesses do you think the county should be trying to attract?
Okay, I don't believe any policy changes are needed. I believe that agriculture, tourism, and our small business are the backbone of Rio Blanco County. The Economic Development Department works hard to promote existing businesses in the area and in Rangeley, and to search out new businesses. New businesses need to be of the type that can survive and grow in a rural setting. We're fortunate to have schools and hospitals at both ends of the county, and we have a community college in this county, which all those things make it attractive, make Rio Blanco County attractive for locals and for outsiders. I'm also a big supporter of our seniors, and I would like to see more exploration and building a retiree base here, because the number of people over 50 is growing, and they're fueling an economical growth beyond normal retirement age. As far as a business that I think could come in here and solve all of our woes, I don't see a shining star sitting out here in the future. I think that we need to really concentrate on Rio Blanco County, what Rio Blanco County has in place, and work hard to expand that, and encourage people who might like to try an at-home business and build it into a small business. I know of a couple that could possibly do that, so I would look towards that. Thank you.
I don't know of any specific policy changes that impede or in the way of progress or anything that needs changed at this time. But I think the biggest thing Rio Blanco County can do is to get out of the way of business. If someone comes and wants to start a business, we need to work towards helping them or making their life easier, not harder. There's lots of businesses that would be beneficial in Rio Blanco County, particularly ones that reflect our outdoor lifestyle, hunting and fishing and hiking, four-wheeler OHV travel, things along that line I think would be a good fit.
Todd?
I don't think we have any policies that I know of that would need changed right off the top, but I think we wouldn't really want to reinvent the wheel right off the bat. We have a huge backyard that I don't feel that we fully utilize from Meeker to Rangeley, Rangeley to Meeker. I think that there is a huge opportunity there in OHBs, and it's not seasonal. There's something to do year-round in our county. I think if we focused on bringing events and tourism into our county, that would definitely help the small businesses. That they will step up to that demand of people coming in, and that would be a good shot in the arm to begin with. I think we need to stand up to the state and fight for what's ours, protect our agricultural producers, our outfitters, with the reintroduction of wolves, protect our oil and gas industry from, the state with Senate Bill 181. There's a lot of things that I think we can do, but I also think something that's been overlooked is hospital tourism. And we have very good hospitals on both ends of the county, but I think there is an opportunity there that we haven't fully explored in that area. So that would be my ideas.
Okay.
I think, there's not really any policy changes that I'm aware of either. I think you need good government, not necessarily big government, but good government to help people navigate, a lot of the state and federal regulations, and also have help promote towns that people want to move to. Safe towns where you can ride your little kids can ride their bike till the street lights come on. That's one of the things I remember doing, and I think we need to promote that as well as the multiple use on our public lands. I think also we have a lot of unique opportunity with the broadband. The infrastructure, I think, is mostly there. They have stuff for a lot of racks for data centers that could be promoted, advertised, marketed, all kinds of different things that would potentially bring people into this community. I know there's a big demand for oil and gas data right now, and there's a lot of people around that know oil and gas, more on the west end of the county. But I think we have a lot of potential with the broadband and the redundancy that has. But I think we have two great small towns that we can promote, have good health care, good schools. I think we live in a great place.
Okay, so Kai, this one's, we'll start with you again. This is our golden goose question. If new resources become available, we suddenly have a miraculous influx of cash. What area of county services do you feel most needs additional help?
Public health, I think, needs, if you could add to that, add a scientist potentially, and public health, if you have good public health, you reduce the charity care at your hospital, saving taxpayers money there. That's kind of a big deal. I'm on the hospital board here, and if you have a good, solid public health department, you do save your hospital some money. If we could use somebody to help us defend ourselves against Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, which a lot of the things that are, coming at us from their lobby groups that have different ideas of what we should be doing or what we should look like or who we should be. And we need somebody that understands all that stuff better than I do. Promote some more air testing at the state lines, try to hold us more harmless for the particulates blowing in from other states. Things like that might help us potentially build a gas-fired power plant down the road to replace some of the stuff they're trying to take away with the coal. So, I really feel like if we had some could beef up our public health department, that would help the whole county significantly in a lot of different areas.
Okay, Ty?
I would say human services and public health, but more so human services. I've had the opportunity to work with human services and public health. And I think they could both use the help. Human services specifically, they keep getting overloaded with state statutes and more regulations being passed down. And they get a bigger and bigger workload without any more staff. So I think the county personnel that we have do an excellent job trying to manage that and keep up with it. But I would say that human services would be definitely one spot that could use a shot in the arm. And public health, we have 2 great public health nurses, but as the laws change, regulations change, there's constant pressure being put on them as well. So I think we would have to really focus on both of those departments.
Okay, Scott?
I think if we had an influx of fresh money, it ought to be invested in Rio Blanco County's best asset, and that's the personnel. They've gone a long time, it seems to me like, without a cost of living raise, and it would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. And we have been investing more money into them annually, but it's all been going to health care and not really into the pocketbooks. And I think Rio Blanco County ought to invest a little bit more in mental health. If we invest to help people with the mental health issues, then that would take a burden off some of our human services and law enforcement departments.
Okay, Mona?
My take on this is a little bit different than the other 3 candidates. And if we find unexpected monies, or as I like to call it, a windfall, I think those funds ought to be saved. I think that special funding requests can be made to the commissioners during budget time, when funding requests are prioritized according to need at both ends of the county. I don't think that extra monies must always be spent or granted. That being said, I think it's important to maintain support of our senior services. The other thing that I would like to see happen is somehow figure out some way or something that we can do that would strengthen our rural voter voice. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Mona, what element of the county's government do you feel is the most effective and why? And what element, in your opinion, is least effective, and what could you do to change that as commissioner?
Overall, I think the county government is effective. I think the commissioners provide good leadership, and I think that they are strongly committed to the well-being of the county. But any organization is a work in progress, and communication must be a priority. Communicating basic facts and the reasoning behind them is critical. I mean, if you don't explain things to people, they kind of grab their own thoughts about it all, and sometimes it's way out there. I would also say that one monthly evening meeting, alternating Rangeley and Meeker, would be helpful to draw people in. That midday meetings, is hard for them to get because of work schedules. So if we had an evening meeting, I think we could have more participation from the citizens of the county. Thank you.
Scott?
I agree with Mona. The least effective is communication. A lot of times the public's not sure what's going on with the board, with the county progress, and that could be affected with a blog or new updates on the website on a continuous basis, where people could go and get information. But I believe the most effective part of Rio Blanco County is the personnel. It's the people working behind the scenes that keep everything working. And the day-to-day, you don't notice that they're working because they're efficient, it's working. You only notice when they have to make an error or something, then it's all hell breaks loose. But generally, it goes real smoothly and you don't realize they're even there doing the job they do.
I think the most effective part of our county government is our employees. We have some very talented and skilled employees that work for the county, and I think that they're very efficient in what they do and how they do it. Also, another unique thing about our county, in my current job, I get to travel around the state at different incidences and exercises, and we're very unique in the department heads know each other. I can't tell you how many times that other emergency managers don't know who their human service director is or who their road and bridge director is. So we're very unique, and we know who everybody is from Rangeley to the Meeker end. And I think we all work very well together in that aspect. The least effective, I would say, would be general communication. I'm not a big fan of micromanagement. I'm also not a big fan of the managing commissioner setup that we have now. I think that is a barrier, and it breaks down communication, and it makes it tougher for the other two commissioners to make an educated decision when it comes to budget time, what the department's needs are, things like that. I think managing issues that are personal on the onset of when there's an issue, I think we kind of struggle at some times there. We struggle, who do those go to? How do they escalate up the chain of command? But I think it's very important that we sit down and have those difficult conversations on the onset, and I think that can save a lot of heartache.
Well, I agree with everybody that the personnel is, all the departments have very talented people, and they all work really hard and do a good job. That's kind of the heart and soul of any organization. I guess the question being which department seems to be working good right now. I guess from the outside looking in right now, that the broadband economic development and the marketing of the infrastructure that has been put in place is seems to be providing a lot of opportunity, or at least advertising unique opportunity that people have in this area to take advantage of that. And so that seems like that is going pretty well right now. And as far as a department that always seems to always have a difficult time due to, the human services, the state laws and the burnout, and that is just a tough deal. They have good people, they work really hard at it, but I think they're just very limited on the amount that they can do due to unfunded mandates and mandates in general. I think that the county commissioners can really help in that arena by attending some of those steering committee meetings in Denver and helping with some legislation that would maybe ease their burden a little bit.
Okay. Along those same lines, what do you see as your role in the chain of command as a county commissioner? What should that be, and what should that look like?
I don't believe in micromanagement at all, and I also agree with Ty that the three commissioners together make decisions, not one here and one there and everything. So the chain of command is very important, and I also believe that the county commissioners are kind of the last resort. If there's a conflict, it should be handled with their department head. They go up the line with their immediate supervisor, department head, potentially get human resources involved if you have to, and at the very last resort, if you can't come up with some resolution, you get the county commissioners involved to maybe help mediate that. But the chain of command is very important.
The way I view chain of command in the county would be it's under the incident command system. We use that on all incidents. It's a nationwide system. It was developed by firefighters, and it works very, very well, and it's very efficient. And the way I view it is you have unified command at the top, which are your 3 county commissioners, and their job is to set the objectives, and then you have your department heads under that, and you have to have faith and trust in your department heads and your leadership in each of those departments. Their job is to set the tactics, and it's not the commissioner's job to get down in the weeds and tell them how to perform or do their job. They are the professionals in their area, and you let that be. As far as issues go, if there's an issue, it would run up the same chain of command. If they have an immediate supervisor, the immediate supervisor would deal with that. If the immediate supervisor couldn't handle it, then it would go to the department head and escalate up that way.
Okay. Scott?
Yes, the commissioner Board of County Commissioners should be the last stop in the chain of command. All issues should be solved, if possible, at the individual department with the director or the supervisor of that department, and then only escalate up from there if it can come to a resolution from there. If it's a personnel issue, then human resources ought to be involved right at the beginning and help mediate the process. But then the commissioner should only be involved as a last resort if it can get taken care of.
The chain of command is important. It's an important communication tool for employees to have, for department heads or supervisors, HR, next step, and finally the commissioners. Without a chain of command, everything becomes chaotic. You don't have any real steps to follow. It offers a method for finding problems or discussing problems, working with those involved, and moving forward. The chain of command gives the employees, department heads, an opportunity or a respectful course to be able to resolve their issues. And if not, then it needs to go up the next step, which to me would be human resources, and then last, the commissioners. Thank you.
What strategies would you want to implement to help bring both sides of the county together to work as more of a unit, so that there's not so much of a divide?
Well, I have been asked by Rangeley people if I would remember Rangeley if they voted for me. And that kind of made me smile a little bit, because I consider both Rangeley and Meeker to be real Blanco County. My strategy for bringing the two towns together would be to listen to location-based issues, discuss solutions, and be willing to compromise. Sometimes I think we fail in that compromise section of it, and people get their feelings hurt and they just quit talking. And we must overcome the idea of one versus the other and build a strong and respectful relationship. Thank you.
I think we need to stop referring to both sides of the county. I think we, especially as the Board of Commissioners, need to think of both sides equally. And they both, each side, Meeker and Rangeley, each has their own assets. They have their own special problems, but they all need to be solved together to the best of their ability, or our ability. And because without Rangeley, Meeker won't survive. Without Meeker, Rangeley won't survive. We just need to work together for the best possible solutions for everybody.
As the EM or emergency manager, sorry, I'm horrible at throwing out acronyms, but as the emergency manager, I've already been working on this, unifying both ends of the county, bringing both ends of the county together and working on projects. Most recently, the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. That's a plan that was adopted by the county, both towns, both fire districts, and the Meeker Sanitation District. I am also in the process of rewriting the county emergency operations plan. But in doing that, we are joining as a team as Rio Blanco County. The town of Rangeley, the town of Meeker, both hospitals, and the county are all going to plan or form one big planning group to rewrite and overhaul the entire plan. So we're all working off of the same common operation goals and the same plan. So if Rangeley District Hospital's having a bad day, Pioneers can go step in and assist with that. I think also there's strength in numbers and working through our issues. If you sit down and have a face-to-face and work out your issues and talk through those, you're gonna get a lot accomplished on that. But I think doing what's right for both ends. If you do what's right for one end and you're doing what's right for the other end, that's going to only build teamwork and collaboration and unity. And I believe actions speak louder than words. And as a commissioner, I think if you're visible and available on both ends of the county, that will definitely help.
Well, I feel like that there is a need to have some, like a quarterly meeting, maybe one every 6 months, talk to the stakeholders and find out what that is, what's a good appropriate time, and maybe get the town boards together once in a while, the water districts together once in a while, and identify the assets that you have in each community, see what you can do to help. There's a lot of smart people in Rio Blanco County, and I think if you tap into some of that knowledge, you can figure this out, and we can figure out how to do that. I know growing up, we'd go down there and ride dirt bikes and probably pass people from Rangeley coming up here to go camping. We played baseball and football against all those people down there, and a lot of us are still friends. So there is a little weird something. And, I can't put my finger on it. I've never been able to quite figure that one out. But I think we can bridge that barrier by communicating, trying to solve some problems together, identify our individual assets and capitalize on those.
Right, for you, what's your problem-solving approach when there is a dispute or a disagreement?
I think that's really kind of a simple one. My grandfather told me a long time ago, he said, there's their side, or your side, their side, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. And it seems like that's pretty effective. It's a simple version, but you get both sides, and somewhere in the middle there is really kind of the issue. And then you can narrow it down, and then you can solve the problem. And I believe it's really as simple as that.
I would say sitting down face to face, having the conversation, regardless of how difficult it is, but having that face to face conversation and really drilling down to figure out what the problem is, and not be so hard-headed. Keep an open mind, and more importantly, be a good listener, because your way is not always the right way, and there's always more than one way to skin a cat. So I think being a good listener, instead of constantly thinking about a rebuttal, why you're supposed to be listening, truly listen to what that person's saying.
Scott?
I like to listen to both sides individually, and then on the conflict, and then bring them in together and go over it and have them discuss their problem, and go from there and try to find an equitable solution. But generally by finding things they agree on, and figure out what the smaller things they can agree on, and then come up with a solution.
I think listening with an open mind, researching facts, and discussing solutions in a courteous and respectful manner, because anything less only breeds further discontent, and you don't get anywhere with that. That's not easy. It requires a lot of patience, and it may not result in everyone's desires or desired results. If I happen to make a mistake or wrongdoing as a commissioner, I would definitely own that mistake and fix it, because I can't stand to have that kind of a thing hanging over my head. How we handle mistakes is how we improve and grow. Thank you.
Okay. Last formal question. What do you believe is the most important character trait for a county commissioner or any elected official to have?
Well, listening is big, and listen sincerely. Hear what is being said. Respect is big. Common sense, honesty, and a commitment to real Blanco County. Thank you.
I believe a very strong character trait is integrity, and it involves being ethical, honest, and trustworthy.
I don't think you can sum it up with just one character trait. I think personable, respectable, responsible, lead by example. You got to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk, and you have to want to initiate the change and not get caught up on titles. And I think that you really have to focus on what is best for the county and the constituents of the county.
Well, I think first of all, you need to be honest. And then I think also to not have an agenda, or not a bad agenda, other than, the well-being, and represent the county for the greater good. And listen and gather information and be methodical in your thought process, and show up and participate. I think that's important. And try to solve problems. Don't draw the line in the sand. Solve the problem.
Okay, so that's the prepared questions. If anybody has and I know we weren't able to get to all of the ones that were submitted, and some of them got combined into one. So if you have a question for our candidates, and it's just, you just have to ask that question, please raise your hand, and we'll let you take a shot. Go ahead.
Yeah, as a sixth-generation cattle rancher and a second-generation outfitter here in Meeker, we all know that this upcoming ballot for the reintroduction of wolves is a major issue for Real Blanco. Not only Real Blanco, but any small town on the western slope. And as an outfitter, I want to know what the commissioners are willing to do to help protect our county, or go forth to get to the head of the situation to help us. Because if wolves are reintroduced to this county, I'm done. I'm done as an outfitter. I don't think it affects the ranchers as fast as it will the outfitters, but I'd just like to know your input on what we can do, or what you guys can do as commissioners to help protect us, to help mitigate or protect us, to keep this from passing.
Okay, Kai, you want to take that?
Sure. I think the county wholeheartedly needs to be opposed to that. Probably support Pac West, who the Stockmans and the wool growers have lined up. That's that that helped defeat the gas and oil ballot initiative a couple years ago. But Pac West is working on that to try to beat the ballot initiative. There's a Elk Creek Ranch up the river hired an attorney to challenge the ballot initiative, and I think the county should be involved in that and get some of that information to see if the ballot initiative is even constitutional. And then if that doesn't work, I think the last resort is the county and maybe some other agency around that are probably going to have to file a lawsuit against the organization trying to introduce the wolves, which goes back to the Sierra Club, and make darn sure it's tied up in court for as long as possible. But it's a taking, and I think there is grounds for a lawsuit from the county, or an organization closely affiliated with the county.
agree with that, but I think on top of that, we have, as rural counties, we have to make our voices heard. And we have to go over and meet them on their turf, on their playing field, and as tough as it is, and it seems like we're fighting an uphill battle, which we are, but I think there's enough rural counties and people that will be impacted. You know, you have to bond together, you have to build those relationships, and you have to be willing to go over on the front range and fight for what's rightfully ours.
Scott?
Well, I'm personally against the wolf reintroduction. I'm against the ballot. Will vote no. I think as a commissioner, I think we need to do everything legally within our power to fight it. And we need to make sure that if they are introduced, and that the stockmen and the outfitters are reimbursed for any losses that they incur. And the outfitters are really gonna be in trouble with that, because they're not gonna be able to document losses. I understand that, but we're just gonna have to fight it every way we can.
My daughter-in-law has an outfitting service in the Marvin Creek area. She's very concerned about the reintroduction of wolves, and she rightfully so. I mean, all of us basically should be concerned about it. It's one of those off-the-wall legislation that our governor and people like him that are in the state capitol in Denver are doing to us. And I think it's important that we stand up and we let our feelings be known loud and clear. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Mona, I heard you mention supporting the seniors in the community, but I didn't hear anybody mention supporting the younger generation. And if you look at the open positions within the county and how long those positions are open, what are your thoughts? How do we bring in new people to our community to fill these positions? Because we cannot keep recycling people within the county for these positions. We're gonna run out. And so how are we, as a county, going to support our younger generation to stay here or to move here?
Well, I think sometimes our younger generation, as Ty said, he couldn't wait to get out of here. Back in the day, I couldn't wait to get out of here either. However, once the younger people get their education, if they have a solid family unit here, they usually return. A lot of them will. Now, as far as what you're talking about and bringing in people to fill those positions that you need filled, I don't think there's any real easy answers there. I think that's going to be something that we work at constantly, and maybe the commissioners need to look at a different salary base. I don't know what the answer is. But I would certainly be willing to explore every avenue that there is out there if I was a county commissioner.
Scott, would you like to speak to that as well?
Yeah, I agree. I think people are gonna graduate from high school and they can't wait to leave Meeker. I did the same thing a few years ago. But I think leaving Meeker and getting an education and returning to Meeker makes you stronger, it makes you a better person. You get other life experiences. As far as keeping youth in Meeker, I don't think there's any way we can do that. But to get good qualified workers, all you can do there is just pay them.
I think it's good and healthy for our youth to leave, and I learned a tremendous amount when I left, and there was a whole new world out there. But there came a point in time in my life when it didn't matter if I had a job or not. I wanted to come back to Meeker because I wanted to raise my family here. So I think that our youth will have to reach that point on their own. It's not something that I think we should focus on keeping our youth here. I think they'll come back when and if that time is right. But as far as filling our empty positions within the county, I think there's a couple things we need to look at. We need to look at our salary range. The county offers excellent benefits, but how are we advertising that? How, do people are only looking at the bottom line? They're not taking into consideration, the other benefit package that goes along with that. How are we really advertising that? And also, I think we need to look at our job descriptions and our requirements within those. Are they too high for our area? And that I don't know. I haven't looked into the vacant jobs and job descriptions, but I think that would be a good place to start.
It's a tricky one, and everybody's kind of mentioned leaving and coming back, but I feel like that we have an opportunity in Rio Blanco County to do some training, advertise at some colleges, and maybe get some new programs going at CNCC that train people and offer degrees in fields that we have in our county, and try to market that and advertise it, and the things that go along with living in this community or that community. I think we have something very, very unique in this county, and a lot of young people that enjoy the outdoors and camping and all that stuff just don't know about it or don't know where it is, and if we could kind of get that, some training programs with some of our entities and maybe help the college get some of those courses that exploit some of the things that we have around here, that would probably help us a little.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes?
Good evening. My name is Tanya Mers. And recently I reached out to submit an application for to provide foster care or adoption for children in Rio Blanco County who need these services. And as you're probably aware, we have a lot of children on the western slope and in our county who are in need of homes to take them in. And it was turned down because our county doesn't have the resources to come out to my home and do a home assessment and get my home certified. I was given different avenues that I could go to: private adoption services, or possibly wait until down the road when our county had the services to come out to my home and see if I was fit to take care of some of these children who need some help. So I just want to know, as a county commissioner, what do you see that you could do to improve the situation that we have in this county for kids who need foster care or they need adoption? Because we have the opportunity to work with other counties around us, to partner with them, and we have I see that we spend funds on our children in a lot of different ways. Is there funds that we should be putting towards, if I know we just opened a position, the county just opened a position for a caseworker yesterday, and whether or not that will be filled or how long that takes to fill, I don't know. But bringing in a caseworker from another county into this county to be able to do these home assessments and be able to get the ball rolling on some of these things, so that people who are interested in doing this don't have to, go to Mesa County to try to help those kids, or go to Moffat County. It's not that there's anything wrong with that, reaching outside of Rio Blanco County, but being a Rio Blanco County resident, what can we do to help our own kids here?
Mona, would you like to start with that?
I think that's an excellent question, and not one that I can really answer. I don't know what your needs is in getting a home inspection done. I certainly think that would be something that as a county we should be exploring, because there are kids out there that have needs, and we should be trying to fulfill those needs, and especially if we have people like yourself that would be willing to be a foster family. I think we are doing a disservice when we can't take care of that issue for you. And I don't have anything else to say on that, other than if I was elected, I would promise you I could look into that.
Yeah, and I don't know if resources would be available for the county to fully fund it, but it's obviously something we need to look at. But I'd also like to look at different places like, churches or other organizations that might be able to come up with the funding to at least get the inspection done, if that's all it requires. It might be simpler to bring someone from out of town or from a different county. If it, if it's just money, we surely could come up with ways to do that. Like the Lions Club, that's an example. I'm not pointing fingers, but a lot of service organizations are all, always good at raising money for noble causes.
As I mentioned before, Human Services is a department, if we had a golden egg, that we should put some money towards for services just like that. I know that our Human Service Department's doing all that they can. As a commissioner, I would definitely sit down with our department head and figure out if there's grant opportunities, if there's anything through the state. I'm not familiar enough with the Human Services department, but maybe there's a reason why we don't have that. Is it because of lack of funding or another additional staff? If so, is there another service, outside service? What are the costs? Are there any grant funding or any other options to help facilitate or fill that position?
There have been a lot of good ideas, and I think that's one of those tough ones, and unfortunately, it's a national problem as well. I understand from a lot of people that it's not just a state of Colorado problem. That's an issue nationwide. It's probably a good idea to get some congressmen and some senators involved in that issue and try to really make a difference for a lot of people, and not just people in this county, but people all over. It's a tough deal. I have some friends that adopted a child in Colorado, and then the next time they went to adopt one, the process was so difficult that they got one in China, and that just seems really wrong when there are. I had this conversation earlier, in fact, this evening, but it seems wrong that should be the case, where it's easier to get a child from China than the U.S. or even Colorado, when there are an awful lot of them that could really benefit from a nice home, a good, some good parents that care about them. So I don't know. I don't have that answer, but I think it's something that certainly could use some attention.
Hi, I'm Brian Bofinger. Recently in the past, I've gone to a couple of commissioner meetings, we got public input. One of them was building codes. I'm assuming in all your chain of commands, the people of this county are great public commissioners, right? That's who they all work for. The communication partners, we never heard back as to what the results of the building code issues are, or what our building code is. So that, one of my biggest problems with our county commissioners right now is lack of communication. And when the community brings a problem to the commissioners, it's not being, the resolutions are not being put back out to the people of the county. What's your plan on that?
Well, like I said, communication is a big thing. I attended those meetings as well. I do know that there was a resolution passed regarding exemption for different kinds of, like a shed or something, so that, you didn't have to go through the whole loan process of having, getting a permit, paying money, going, having an inspector come out and all of that. I don't know exactly how that was. I don't know if that was communicated out to the public that well. I know I got a copy of that resolution, and I am really, really interested in building codes and how those all work for Rio Blanco County, because Personally, I feel that our building codes didn't fit our environment, and I think they still need a lot of work. But I agree with you. Communication is a big issue. Thank you.
Yes, I think communication is the issue, and I think we need to have a place on a website where people could go and get updated information. The newspaper certainly carries it. Not everybody takes the paper. I don't know the solution for that. But there's a lot of information in our area that's not getting dispersed. And then I think a website or a blog or something like that would go a long way. The county had an information officer or someone that could commit the time to getting the word out.
One of the earlier questions, it asked what the least effective part of the county government was, and it was general communication. And I think that has been a problem, and I do believe that the current board has taken the appropriate steps in trying to attempt to correct that. But under my idea of the incident command system, if you're familiar with that at all, the PIO is part of the command and general staff, and public information officer. I'm horrible with acronyms, so. But the public information officer is part of that, and I think that they are trying, and they've taken the steps in the right direction, but I think we can definitely step up our game, because again, you're right, the constituents are the boss, and you all have the rights to know.
Well, in this case, I think the stakeholders are the contractors, and I know a lot of contractors that feel like that, they were invited to the meeting but not heard, and they're still kind of up in the air on what's going on with the building codes. And I think that's a thing where you have to get those people involved in it, come up with what's appropriate for the community. And, there's a fine line between too much and not enough. The saying about building snake pits, you get snakes, or having so much that, people can't afford to build anything. But I think that the contractors can help you get there to eliminate the fly-by-night contractors from out of town that are gonna build junk and run. And I've seen that, and the county was actually, had to make some payments on some bad structures when I started the last time. There were some things that had happened prior that put the county in a pinch and were not good. And, I know Forrest, he's right here, and he corrected that problem, I think. He put together a professional department, and they did pretty well, and I think there's a fine line right there. You've got to get the contractors involved, the electrical contractors, and figure that out and have it available, that information available.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Okay.
So I've heard a lot about like a golden goose and what we do for extra funds, and just in my opinion, I feel like government is a waste of money a lot of the time, and everything I heard up there was like more government. And so I guess my question is that are you guys apt or open to any sort of government private partnerships, maybe to save the county money, or maybe government interagency ways to save money for the government, maybe create some golden goose later down the road? I guess that's a question I have, is are you open to those kind of ideas? Or it seems like we always start those ideas and then we find somebody that says, well, here's why we can't do it, but nobody ever comes up with why we can do it. And I think that's frustrating on my end, because I'm a business owner, we always have to find a way. It seems like we're getting beat down every day on prices and all this stuff, but yet the government keeps getting bigger. And so sometimes I guess I'd like to see the government be more apt to, hey, there's a business, maybe he can do it for half the price because we are a lot more efficient than the government is. And I guess I'd like to know your feelings on that.
Can I start? I would totally agree. I think that's not the government's position is to compete with private industry. There's a lot of ways to collaborate, and I am not opposed to, cutting the fat, if you will, if need be. But if that's going to help our small businesses or the private industry grow and foster, then I'm all for it. I'm not a big advocate of, government spending or a bigger government. That's capitalism versus socialism, and I'm a firm believer in capitalism.
I think there's a lot of opportunities for public-private partnerships, and I think it's the government's job to keep the taxes as low as possible in this county to encourage businesses to thrive the best they can. If we don't support the businesses we have, we're not gonna attract other businesses. Those certainly help attract more business, so I think whenever there's a chance to do a public-private partnership, I think it's a good thing.
I think small government's best. I think anytime we can get the job done by a private business, or private entity versus the government, I think we need to jump on it and take that opportunity. I mentioned that with the young lady here. If you can get funding outside of the government through charitable organizations or anything like that, that's by far better than the government doing it.
I agree. I think there's options out there that can be explored and see what works best. I think in one of the county commissioner meetings, I think it was the last one in Rangeley, they talked about purchasing some items. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they were going through the state to buy there because they could get it in a larger quantity at a less money, for less money. I think some of those bigger government agencies can be real helpful. I worked for a state agency in Georgia. My husband worked for the federal government, and they had those types of buying capabilities available to them. Now, does that answer all the questions, and is it the be-all, know-all, or whatever? No, I don't agree. I don't think it is. I think that there's many options out there that we can explore, and we're a tiny community here, so I think we all need to work together, government and small business, agriculture, tourism, to do what's best for all of us.
Yes,
You had mentioned something about trying to keep taxes lower, okay? I recently became introduced to a little something called the use tax that we have here in Rio Blanco County. And I became aware of that because of the addition to our home that we're building in order to bring in foster kids. And I'm paraphrasing what the use tax says, but it says something to the effects of you're taxed for the privilege of having certain items, whether it's basically a corral panel or building an addition onto your house or a window or lights or whatever you happen to buy out of town, you get the privilege of being taxed by Rio Blanco County, supposedly in lieu of being taxed by whatever county you might be making those purchases in, if you're not able to purchase them here. My question is this, or it's more of a statement and a question. There's only a couple counties statewide that still use this antiquated form of revenue production, which ultimately is because of the small community. It's a way of trying to produce revenue when it's not really due them in the first place, and a big part of that was for the oil industry to try to get into their pockets a little bit. What are the candidates' opinions on this old antiquated use tax? It's cumbersome. I don't believe it's right. and it's hard to try to convince a retailer in a different county where you're trying to purchase thousands of dollars worth of things that you can't get locally just because of the size of the community. It's hard to convince that retailer that they're not supposed to charge you tax, that they're supposed to look at this piece of paper you hand them and charge you tax back in the little town where you come from.
Again, that's a great question. There are no easy answers to it. I don't know how old that whole process is. I know that I have myself been hit with sales use tax on things that we purchased to add the addition on our home as well. As the personal property tax appraiser for Rio Blanco County for 10 years, one of the other things that people didn't like in this county was personal property tax. And so I came up against this tax thing quite often. I don't know what the answers are there. I don't like taxes any more than anybody else. I don't know what we can do to, change that or make it better for our citizens. I do know and understand that taxes are a necessary evil, much to our dismay. Thank you.
And I agree with the use tax being a necessary evil, and it hits you especially hard because you're adding an addition onto your house, and I understand that. But it's pretty beneficial for Rio Blanco County to have income from that. And with the use tax, there's been some new come up. People do internet shopping, buy something from Amazon, that when they have to pay taxes on that, and Rio Blanco County gets the money back out of that. So online shopping is also beneficial now, today, due to the use tax to Rio Blanco County. So I don't see it going away with this magical deal, and I don't know a solution. And if it was to go away, property taxes would probably have to go up substantially to fill the void.
I too found myself in your same shoes, very frustrated and asking the very same questions when we were remodeling our house. We didn't find out until sometime later, so it was really a shock when that wasn't budgeted. I think as Scott mentioned, with the new law of the sales and use tax, with things purchased on or sales tax with things purchased on the internet, I think that's something brand new to the county. So maybe that is an area that we need to focus on to begin with. And if it's that antiquated and not necessary and that frustrating to the general public, then if this new sales tax that's being generated off of revenue purchases, if that can fill that void or that gap and then some, that might be one solution.
And I as well have been frustrated with the use tax. Built a house and, the little piece of paper, and you're trying to convince them that, it's, but I guess conceptually, it's supposed to save you 2 to 3% or 4% sometimes on taxes by paying the Rio Blanco County tax as opposed to the Mason County tax or the Garfield County tax. And, I'm not familiar with the tax rates today, but I know at one time that could be significant and could save you a significant amount of money on things that you can't purchase here. If I remember right, that a lot of counties have kind of let the use tax go to their municipalities to manage that, so they still have it, it's just managed by the towns rather than the counties. But I think you're right. I think we look at that and see if there's a better way or a less frustrating way or a more economical way to try to still save you the taxes but not eliminate the hassle.
Anybody else? No? Wyatt? Okay, I'll throw one out that came up that we haven't addressed. Here's my curveball. Over the course of the last, I think it's been a year now, we have gone from having having 2 contract attorneys working for the county. And I've crunched some of the numbers. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if we're spending more, if we're spending less because of benefits. Do you think it would be better to go back to having a single salary county attorney or to continue with this contract model?
That's a good question. I'm not opposed to the contract model that we have. Basically, I think that you have one attorney that is working for the county government or the county management type of business, and the other attorney, if I understand it right, is dealing more with court issues regarding adoptions and child whatever issues. So whereas before, our county attorney, I think, was actually snowed with some of the stuff with the, the courts being there for, I don't know, whatever it is with child welfare or whatever. I think that there is a lot of time needed to be spent in that area, and I think having the separate lawyer who is focused on that area is better than trying to have one and split and being overloaded and not being able to do the job well.
And I'm not sure on the money, the cost savings, I tried to do the math in my head when from the newspaper article. It doesn't work out to any definite savings or cost. The advantage to having a contract lawyer is if you needed a lawyer for a special event, like the children, or if we come up against some water issues or any other issues like that, you're gonna have to go hire another lawyer anyhow, just as quick to handle that. So having a contract lawyer isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I understand the how and why we got to where we are today with the 2 attorneys. The DHS attorney, I don't have an issue with him being a contract attorney. I think from my understanding of that attorney, he's very good at what he does. And I'm not 100% sure on the numbers, but I think the county does recoup a lot of that cost. The main county attorney, I do have an issue with being a contract attorney, just for the mere fact that I do not feel, don't get me wrong, I don't have an issue with Mr. Starr, but having a contract attorney, because I do not feel that they're not personally invested in our community. And if you're not personally invested in our community and know how our community operates and works, then how can you make the right and best decision for our county?
I would agree with that county attorney should live and work in Rio Blanco County. I think you have, and I don't have a problem with the contracted attorney for human services. I think that's probably a pretty efficient way to do that. That's a large load. But I think the actual county attorney that handles the day-to-day land use planning, all that other stuff, should work for Rio Blanco County, be in Rio Blanco County, and that's it.
Okay. Did that trigger anything else for anybody? Any other questions?
Yeah, kind of. Where are we gonna get this attorney from? Right, the question came up earlier, how are we gonna get new people in here with the education stuff? Where are we getting an attorney that can battle the Wolf Project, the water and land use stuff in this county?
And pay them.
You're not gonna get somebody that was born and raised here. Is that where you're going? Like somebody that.
Well, yeah, I don't think we're putting out a lot of attorneys.
No, I mean, yeah, there is.
Right?
But, I mean, there are a handful of people that are attorneys that live in and were raised here. But I don't think that it's something that we have to rush out and do. Just because I disagree with it, doesn't mean that that's something that has to change right now. Like I said before, I don't have an issue with with Todd Starr. I think he's doing the very best that he can do, but
This was
to
more
your-
going back to the earlier question, how are we gonna get people to fill, the younger generation to fill these positions? Right, I'm on the hospital board, we run into it, we can't get nurses, we can't get doctors, right, we can't get MAs or CNAs. So, which normally come from our younger generation, right? Where are we getting, right, we're kind of in a quagmire, we have to get a contracted attorney who likely will not live in this county.
You mentioned the wolf issue, excuse me, there's attorneys right now fighting the wolf issue. And a lot of them are sponsored by different states or larger organizations. And I think it's easier for us to pay a small amount and tag team on with those experienced attorneys than it is for us to go try to find one and reinvent the wheel. The SCI themselves at their annual convention 2 or 3 weeks ago raised $140,000 of money just to fight the wolf ballot issue in Colorado. And that's a worldwide organization that's helping us. So we don't need to do it all on our own.
Okay, thank you.
I do feel that those attorneys are out there, and some of them grew up here, and I think there's probably 1 or 2 that grew up here that would like to move back. I feel like that's certainly a possibility.
I think salary boils down to be a big issue in bringing your professionals like lawyers and doctors and that
Do
kind of stuff
any
in
of you know
there.
what our salaries are compared to Rio and, to Garfield and Robb counties?
No, but I think it's a good thing to look at.
They're-
According to the paper, we're way, way low.
Yeah, we are, and I know I can speak for my own, because I know where I stand on that pay scale. But again, they're looking at the salary number and not all-inclusive benefits. So we get 100% paid healthcare, but that number's not tallied in that figure. So it will appear that I am getting paid less than the Garfield County emergency manager. Yes, I am. And I'm getting a lot less than the Summit County emergency manager, but he has a bigger population, he has a bigger county, and I don't know what their benefit package is.
Cost of living figures into that extremely too. It costs a lot more to live in Garfield County than it does Rio Blanco County.
I think that, location, but also I feel like that, every board I've been on, I was on the school board for about 9 years, and we had to do wage adjustments because the gap gets so big, and I know, on the hospital board, we're going through that right now, and, those comparisons are healthy, I think.
Anybody else? Is everybody ready to go home? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. It was really good to see a full room. And thank you all for participating and being willing. And if I remember correctly, the caucus is March the 7th. Do we have a location?
Depends on what precinct.
There's 5 different locations per precinct.
So caucus, then the assembly, then the primary,